you. Take your time. If anybody's just showing up, that's fine too. But it's really great to see a good turnout for this talk. We have a bunch of people on Zoom, so thank you for joining as well. If you know anybody that couldn't make it and wanted to, there will always be recording available for these presentations, so I'll make that publicly available to anybody who wants it. But we're welcoming back John Bartholomeo from Mohawk Valley Wellness. Obviously today's a great topic that people are always concerned about with sleep. How do we sleep better, sleep more, optimize our process, because it's so vital to our regeneration and our overall health. So I'm not going to take any more time away from John and his content. So enjoy lunch, digest the information, and plenty of time for questions and answers. So, thanks, John.
This is now my second time speaking up at Hamilton. One of you guys have a beautiful, beautiful, amazing campus that every time I show up, I come in a different way and get lost. So this, I'm getting better at finding my way to where I need to be. Every time I get to step out of the facility and present is a breath of fresh air for me. There's some individuals in the room right now that I've known for a really long time. I thoroughly enjoy what I get to do. My line of work is very, very fulfilling. I get to help men and women lead happier and healthier lives. And when I get to step out of our facility and come to different arenas to educate and to inspire, I love it. I absolutely love it. So as Stefan touched on, today we're going to focus on one of the pillars, which is sleep. And I will be honest, I think many individuals put that kind of on the back burner, right? Most people know, hey, there's a fitness center. Maybe I hop on the elliptical. Hey, I know I should be eating, healthier food. But sleep kind of gets put on the back burner. And I'm here to talk about why that, in my opinion, is probably one of the worst things that we can do for physical and mental health. The way I present is I will love and encourage questions along the way. If I stand up here for 40 minutes and just talk to you guys and there's no interaction back and forth, it makes for a very long 40 minutes and a very dry 40 minutes. I know the presentation is on sleep, but I don't want to put you to sleep. So as we get going, hey, John, I have a question. Hey, could you go over that more in depth? Hey, I disagree with that. Please raise your hand. I would love to engage in conversation back and forth, because now I get to answer questions in a more direct fashion. So we will rock and roll. A long time ago, I heard somebody mention, and they had talked about sleep as being the Swiss Army knife of health, because it impacts so many different areas. That stuck with me, so that is why I decided to name the presentation Sleep, the Swiss Army knife of health. So without further ado, why do I get asked to come and speak? I've spent the last 13 years owning and operating Mohawk Valley Wellness. We're in Marcy. At this point, hundreds of men and women have come through our door, probably thousands have come through the door, and we have had a positive impact on their health. And one of the things that we've really championed and tried to do is make sure that we talk about what they're doing outside of the gym. We put a very, very big focus on their nutrition, a very, very big focus on their sleep, on their mindset, and all of these different pieces. So that is why different entities, such as your amazing campus here, reach out and say, hey, John, can you come and present? So we've been doing it for a very, very long time. We know that there's much more to it than just hitting the weights and going for a run. The back end side of it is extremely, extremely important to us. So my goal today is to give you guys some information on why the sleep should come higher up on the priority list. I would argue that the sleep should sit right next to the nutrition. So if you want to be healthy, if you want more longevity, better cognitive function, bring the sleep up right next to that nutrition. So my goal is to kind of show you why. Next, it doesn't do me very much good to talk about sleep and then not give you any actionable items to take away. So when I go to leave, I'm going to ask, hey, does everybody feel like you have at least one or two things that you could work on that would make your sleep better? And then at the end, answer any specific questions that you have regarding sleep. And then if we run dry on sleep questions, obviously we could go into anything else related. But that is my goal. I'm a very goal-driven individual. I do not like to fail, so don't let me fail. So ask questions as we go. Anything so far? Not brush. All right, the 3 big reasons why we hammer making sleep a priority. If we think about it, we're on our feet 8, 10, 12 hours a day. We have a job that's mentally taxing, it's physically taxing. If we have children, multiple jobs, we have a lot going on. That period of time at the end of the day is one of the few times that you actually get to let your body do what it naturally should be doing, which is restoring and healing. For those of us that like to work out, whether that be resistance training, running, swimming, hiking, all of those things are great, but the body's actual time to rebuild from that is when you sleep. So we do a lot of work during the day, which is amazing and outstanding, but we need to make sure that we have time to heal and recover from that. Cognitive and mental health, if you look at the top 2 to 3 connecting reasons for early onset Alzheimer's and dementia, it is dysregulated sleep for extended periods of time. So again, for anybody in this room that's like, hey, cognitive function, I want my memory, I want my brain to be as sharp as I can for as long as I can, that one should scream to you. Those of us that are in the room that are like, hey, you know what? I want to be a little bit leaner. I want to drop 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 pounds. Your sleep quality and your sleep quantity absolutely have a huge impact on that. So all of these are amazing. One may speak to you more than another, but those are the top 3 reasons why I hammer on making sleep a very, very high priority. If we're going to talk about anything, I'd like to define it. How do we define a good night's sleep? Because you could physically be in bed for 9 hours, but if you're not waking up feeling well rested, refreshed, things along those lines, then great. You are physically in bed for 9 hours, but you're not getting the sleep that we need. So everybody in this room, adults, we're looking for 7 to 9 hours. It says uninterrupted. I'll put a little asterisk, a little caveat there. Hey, if you've got to hit the restroom, cool, I totally understand that. We can talk about how we can actually maybe reduce those over time. What we're not talking about is, hey, I was asleep for 3 hours, and then I got up and walked around for an hour, and I went back to bed for 5, and I got up for another 30 minutes. We're looking for large chunks of deep sleep. One of my favorite reads, actually, fun fact, I was saying this before we got here. Hands in the air if you had a great night's sleep last night. At least good to great. I'm putting mine on the floor. Here's why. If you saw on this slide that I have 2 young sons. I have a 4-year-old son and I have a 1-year-old son. And this is the truth. Last night at about 2:42 a.m., I'm talking to my wife and said, you know what's really hysterical about all of us being up right now? Is I'm going to Hamilton tomorrow to talk about the quality sleep that we should be getting. And our son, who's 1.5 years, he didn't find it quite as funny as Jennifer. So something to think about is there is no perfect. I don't sleep perfect. I'm not here to preach that everybody in this room needs to have 8.5 hours of perfect sleep and jump out of bed and be skipping through tulips. That's not going to happen. What I would encourage you to do is later on today is kind of take a sleep audit. How much sleep am I getting on a regular basis and how do I feel when I wake up? And if it's important to you, try to move it in the right direction a little bit, right? I'm a realist. I understand individuals have children, multiple jobs, tons of stuff pulling on us at all hours of the day. I also know and have seen firsthand the massive impact improving your sleep can be. So with that being said, we look for adults 7 to 9 hours of sleep, trying to minimize getting out of bed and use that as a definition of, hey, a good night's sleep. Questions so far? Anything? I love questions, just throwing that out there. Got it? Okay. So we've defined it. Now, we'll continue into the benefits of it. Anybody here know anybody that has the flu right now? I know like 16 people. Half my staff last week had the flu. Like we were short-staffed. It's crazy because it's very prevalent right now. So for immune function, if we have disrupted short sleep patterns, we are basically asking our body to work really, really, really hard, but not give it the time to recover, to have what it needs so the immune system can function on all cylinders. So again, those of us that are like, hey, I don't want to take sick days, I don't want to be sick, huge reason to work on building out just better sleep patterns, sleep quality over time, just as a health and immune system function. Sleep and its connection to weight management. Anybody here ever had, all right, show of hands, who's had a bad night's sleep before? Right, it should be every hand in this room. When you have a bad night's sleep, the next morning, what's the first thing you want to do? Usually eat. And is it usually lean protein and some fruit? Probably not. It's like, hey, where can I get some French toast? Where can I get some carbohydrate? Where can I just go straight into, sometimes simple sugar? The reason, the science is beyond me, which we don't need to go deep in the science. Let's just talk about, hey, how can we work on not having that happen? How can we, if we want to say, hey, I want my body to function the way it should. I want my body to have the ability to regulate hormones the way it should, which then allow me to reduce body fat stores. then we need to, again, put the focus on good sleep routines, good quality sleep stretches. If anybody here, again, I have 2 boys, anybody here have kids? Anybody here during the years of 1 to 5 put on a little bit of weight? I didn't, right? It happens. Why? Because the sleep gets extremely dysregulated and you go through stretches of not knowing what day of the week it is. And nutrition sometimes becomes much harder and harder when that's going on. So one of the things that I was talking to Jennifer about today was this exact point of, I did not have great sleep last night, but I know how important it is to me, going back to one of the first slides, because it sits very high on my priority list, right? So for those of us that right now are maybe going through that, we have young kids or our sleep has been a little bit dysregulated, it's just the acknowledgement of it. One of my favorite sayings is all progress begins with the truth. So if like my sleep is really poor or maybe moderate, great, acknowledge it, that's okay, it doesn't make you a bad person, it just means, hey, we've got some work to do on our sleep and we can see how that connects to where it goes. So there will be stretches of your life where your sleep is probably a little bit less than ideal. But I want you guys to grasp onto the idea of that does not need to become the norm, especially if I want to optimize for best health that I can possibly have. So when you go through those stretches, like they say, this too shall pass, and we get through it. But the big piece of it is, if I get consistent choppy sleep, it's gonna be very hard for me to say, hey, I have the extra energy to also now go to the gym. If I have consistent choppy sleep and it's not that great, it's making it harder and harder for me to make the nutrition choices that I want. So in order to facilitate the easiest way to reduce body fat stores, sleep has to sit at the top of it. One of the things that I talk to our clients about all the time is that if you were to look at all the buckets that you have, again, you've got nutrition, you've got exercise, you've got sleep, you have all those different buckets, is bringing the sleep from the lower bucket up to sit higher on the board. Here's a great one. Fun fact, well, it's not really a fun fact. There is a huge spike in heart attacks and heart-related issues when we have the changing of the clocks around the season, because for whatever reason, that 1 hour shortening of sleep, if you go and look, it's well documented, has a very, very detrimental effect on heart health. So for cardiovascular health, right, which we know sits at the top of the list of killing individuals, same thing. If we are up and we are stressed and we are just running around the clock nonstop and we are habitually having 4 hours, 6 hours, just really, really dysregulated sleep, it is going to have an absolute impact on our heart health. So again, I'm not like doing slide after slide to scare you. I'm just slide after slide to draw the connections to, if I want to feel better, if I want to look better, if I want to live longer, if I want the quality of those years to be better, we have to bring sleep up to the top of the list. We can't say, oh, I'll sleep when I die. In fact, I had that conversation with somebody, and if that's your mentality of I'll sleep when I die, you're basically just going to shorten how long you live, and it'll get there sooner rather than later. So how about let's sleep now, let's get better sleep now, live longer and enjoy those years longer. Sleep and mental health. Going back to, who remembers, everybody remember COVID-19? Whopping 3 years ago? What happened then? The world shut down. Everybody's working habits got completely, it was like a snow globe, right? They just took a snow globe and shook it up. Sleep routines, completely dysregulated because your normal work routines were gone. People were working from home that had never worked from home. Schools are shut down. People, just the structure of the day is basically gone. It's gone. Disrupted sleep patterns, closing off social connections, a whole lot of different things. And then we've seen this massive uptick in mental health issues, unbelievable since then. One of the biggest reasons, from my perspective, is you completely disrupted people's sleep patterns, right? If you don't have to get up for work, people are staying up later, they're watching more, Netflix marathons into the night, and that one crucial element of your chance for your immune system and your body to do what it needs to do is just completely thrown out of whack. So if we are short on sleep, our mental health is absolutely going to be tied into that. It is very, very hard to fire on all cylinders if we're not getting the right amount of sleep. So again, I think we're coming to the tail end of these slides, but I wanted to drive home the biggest points to why spend an afternoon just talking about sleep. Anybody here ever take naps? Cool. So now we'll start to get into a little bit more interactive Q&A. Anybody know two things that help with sleep? Let's come up on the next slide. Anybody want to guess?
Not napping.
Not napping. Actually, so sleep pressure. So I get often asked, hey John, what's your opinion on naps? Done, and obviously a super small font, don't worry about writing it down. The two things that will help you sleep on a regular basis are, number one, sleep pressure. How long has it been since I had a restful night's sleep? So if you go a longer period of time, sleep pressure builds up. The next one is a natural decrease in light that's around us, right? So those two things allow our body to release melatonin. What we wouldn't want to do with a nap is say, hey, my normal bedtime is 9 p.m. Taking a nap at 8 p.m. is not going to serve you. If you ever have the ability to, I'm not saying to sleep on the clock, I'm not trying to be bad employees, but if you ever had the chance to catch a 20-30 minute nap, there's a lot of benefit and a lot of science to what I call sleep snacks, or like a small nap, can be extremely beneficial. Again, not going 60, 90 minutes, but short naps just as a little recharge, systematically, usually early afternoon, right? It might be tied in after eating. You guys have probably seen different cultures do that still to this day, that they'll have a lunch and the next thing you know, hey, they're gonna take a 20-30 minute little siesta and then come back to work. So naps can be phenomenal. We just want to avoid having them later in the day so they don't disrupt the actual sleep pressure that should be naturally building as we go throughout the day. All right, so this was my other one, was we have sleep pressure that's going on throughout the day, and then the second one is a natural decrease in light. I don't want to assume, but I will just make the statement, probably the majority of us have lights at our house. The majority of us probably also have, however, phones at our house, computers at our house, TVs at our house. All these things produce and push out light and the different spectrums of light that are great early in the morning. You want light exposure early in the morning. Anybody here ever listen to Andrew Huberman?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, love it, right? If you do, you know what's his biggest thing. I saw your hand, what's he say to try to do every single day?
Early morning sunlight.
Early morning sunlight exposure, especially for what?
Your eyes.
For your eyes. What does that do? It basically tells your brain, your circadian rhythm, hey, this is morning. Morning means up on our feet, move. And in ancestral times, hunt, gather, do whatever we need to do. We live in one of the, I think we live in the best time ever to be alive. That's my perspective. But at the same time, technology can absolutely just poo-poo all over us. Because if it's 9, 10 o'clock, and my lovely boys decide, hey, they're gonna go to bed at 8:30, but then the next thing you know, I have this little supercomputer in front of me, I have my laptop right next to me, and on the wall I have the TV. I've got more light blasting through all of those than my great-grandparents did in a week. But what that does is it blocks the body's natural ability to start to say, hey, I need to start getting ready for bed. So how do we do that? All right, so now we'll start to get into what I had said was giving you guys actionable things. I'm a big proponent of electronics, being phones, tablets, TVs, computers, at least an hour prior. I get looked at like I'm a madman when I tell people this all the time. This is likely the most addictive thing you have in your house, right? From social media, to emails, to news, to sports, to the never-ending stream of funny cat videos on YouTube. Like, it's crazy, crazy addictive. I don't want that thing close to my bedstand. So what I've done over the last few years is I've just said, hey, I come home, if I gotta check any emails, cool, excellent, and I found a place and I put the phone away from me. Because I'm human and I am absolutely prone to the addictive natures of the chimes, the bells, the whistles, and the lights. So going back into it, that if I want to have better sleep, I need to distance myself and or start to reduce the light that's coming through, overhead lights, electronics, computers, tablets, all those things. If you have dimmer switches, they're amazing. So if you ever move and you have the option to go from on off, I would put every single one as you can on a dimmer switch. So what we started to do in our house is after dinner, start to dim the lights, right? All we're trying to do is create an environment that follows the cycle of the sun. Again, studies out there, time and time again, one of the worst things that you can do for long periods of time is overnight shift work. So if you've ever been a nurse, anything, corrections officers, police officers, any military, any of those things where you have to be up through the night for a long stretch of time, extremely detrimental to your health. Fun fact, if you guys are ever on Jeopardy, I'll take half your winnings, but the question is, Guinness World Record, they pulled it from their books. You can no longer submit how long you've gone without sleep because they were realizing that the detrimental effects of long stretches of no sleep, like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days, which people were doing, had caused irreversible brain damage. It wasn't like, oh, they were tired and groggy and then they got some sleep and caught back up. It was causing irreversible brain damage, and they just said, okay, we're not taking these entries anymore because now we're people damaging their brains. So going back to the two biggest things, build the sleep pressure. So if you want a nap, outstanding, get a nap, but don't do it late in the evening. And then number 2, work to distance yourself from phones, tablets, TVs, anything that's pushing those lights out. If you're like, hey John, I don't have that luxury. I have to be on the computer. My work requires it. I have to take meetings late at night. They do have things like blue blocker glasses that you can wear so that you can still do those things, but it doesn't hit the eye the same way. Let's flip it on its head though and go back. What was your first name back there? Yes?
Henry.
Henry? Awesome. So we're talking about where we want the opposite of this is the morning. So I would encourage you guys in the morning to say, hey, the best source of it is get outside. Even if it's cold, throw a hat on, gloves on. If you can get 10, 15 minutes of sunlight into your eyes, again, that is a huge way to just set this circadian rhythm that'll help with your sleep. If you can't, then second best, different types of light, that's when you want it. You want it early in the morning. Questions so far? Yes, get my first question. Yes, ma'am.
In our bedroom, my husband has a computer, he's like a work area, and it has a really big blue light on it, I don't know. And so, in fact, the last night, I got up in the middle of the night because it was, when I was turning over, I guess I floored it or something, and I actually put a towel over the blue light.
Oh,
I'm totally,
I love it.
Is that dangerous?
No. Well, okay. I don't know the exact specification of the electronics and like causing a fire, but I will tell you that is verbatim what my wife and I do. And when we travel, one of the first things we do, we're going to Florida in 2 weeks. One of the first things we do when we get to the Airbnb is walk around with a little piece of black electrical tape, because I'm a geek, I'm a giant nerd. All I do on the drive up here, I'm listening to stuff about this, and I also guinea pig out myself. So all the stuff that I ask you guys to do, I can promise you I'm absolutely doing it or have done it. Debbie's laughing because I've known Debbie for a decade. But to your question, yes, absolutely. There was a study that all you needed to disrupt your sleep was like a dime-sized piece of light on your skin, and it's basically the equivalent of like trying to go to sleep outside. Now, your husband's computer that has, these little lights on it, when the rest of your room is dark, it makes that seem like you're in Las Vegas. So absolutely, we do it all the time. I just take like a t-shirt, I'm like, oh, here, this thing goes here. And yeah, as long as it's not like a space heater, if it's like a little light like that, absolutely. And that's one of my biggest things I always encourage individuals to do is do an audit of your room. For the expense of like blackout curtains and like a little roll of electrical tape, like so for our sons, we use noise machines and we use a humidifier during the winter, but we put a little piece of tape, or sometimes we don't have tape, I'll just like prop a little hook or something in front of it, because I want the benefits of the humidifier or the benefits of the noise machine, but I don't want the negative impact of those little lights, because exactly, when your room is dark, any little light just gets super, super magnified. Love the question. Guys, this is what I like. I like the actual going back and forth. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of those things, like think about it in your room. Like if you have a TV on the wall, even when it's off, it usually has like a little light on it or something like that. Now, a lot of manufacturers have grown keen to this, and the one color that's the less detrimental is usually red. So a lot of times when things are off, it'll have a red light on it, but still, if you cover it up, you won't go wrong. And it's like, it takes 2 seconds. Seems like you had a question.
What's your opinion on the lights that provide natural light, similar to natural light?
If you cannot get out into the greatest source of natural light that there is, absolutely. I put everything on the spectrum. Natural sunlight is going to be your best within reason, right? We don't want to go out there for 6 hours and get sunburned, but the light exposure, number one, on our skin is great for vitamin D. Also through the eyes is great for circadian rhythm. But if you can't, hey John, I'm just jammed up, I work doubles or I'm inside and unfortunately there's no windows, yeah, they have little light panels that you can use, those are good. I would definitely put that above the light from a computer, which is still better than being like, I'm in complete darkness and there's no light. So we want the light earlier in the day. The best source of it is the sun, right? And think about that, you get a double win. I'm a huge proponent, if you can get outside and walk, even 5 or 10 minutes, right? Fresh air, yes, we're in upstate New York, it's a little brisk right now, but you've got fresh air, you've got sun in the skin, you've got sun in the eyes, bundle up, put a hat on, put gloves on, walk a dog, or even just walk 1 or 2 laps around the block. Then you also get the added benefit of blood circulation, which is phenomenal for you. And then if you guys have ever noticed, you'll generally get really, really good ideas when you're doing things that don't take a lot of concentration. So when you're walking, you're getting blood flow to your brain, but it's not the same as like driving, or it's not the same as like operating like a saw, like you're just walking, so you're getting, right? We want to stimulate blood flow, that's why like in the shower, anybody ever here have like, oh, that's a great idea, and I got in the shower, you're like cutting grass, why? Because you're doing something that has you moving, but it's not so demanding of your brain that you have to focus on it like a ton. And the movement, the blood flow, all of those things combined generally help you come up with really good ideas. So, side tangent off of covering up lights, absolutely. The next one I'm going to is, and Steph, you gotta let me know, because I'll talk for 4 hours on sleep. Let me talk about another big one, which is the temperature. If you were here last time when I presented, I told the group about a really cool experiment that I thought was awesome. My wife didn't find it quite as fun. My wife is a saint. We've been here 18 years, and the stuff I do, I'm surprised she's still with me. So before we had our first son, our first son, Nicholas Benjamin is 4 and change. So again, I tell you guys, I'm a giant geek, nerd. I love to learn, and then as soon as I learn it, I just dump it on myself. So got very, very interested in sleep. This was before we had the boys. And then realized that, hey, if we drop the temperature in the house a couple degrees, that we were sleeping better. So the baby was born, and as you can imagine, if you've ever had kids, sleep, it's gone. Like you don't even know what day it is, you don't know what planet you're on. So as he started to sleep a little bit better, I wanted to get back to better sleep because I knew how great it could feel. So what I started doing was a little experiment of how cold can I make the house before she realized it. And we went from 68 to 62, which doesn't seem like a lot, but if you keep your house at 68 or 70 and you think about 62, you're like, oh, that's a stretch. She woke up in the morning and she said, John, what are you doing? It's freezing in here. I said, okay, yeah, get it, it's a little cold. But will you, before you like throw anything at me, will you just be honest, and do you think that you, Jennifer, and Benjamin are sleeping better? And I said, don't have to, give me like 10 minutes, go do, came back, she said, yeah, we are. Now, she will also do it if I forget to drop the temperature, if we need to open a window, if we need to do anything to drop the temperature, she's all for it, because we've seen, the 4 of us, 39, 37, 4, and 1, we all sleep so much better when it's a few degrees cooler. And the easiest way to do the exact opposite of that is just go home tonight, look at what time, look at the temperature, don't even adjust it tonight. Just look at it, okay, 71, 68, 66, whatever, just look at it tonight. And then do 2 nights where you push it up about 3 degrees. Be like, all right, let me see what 73 feels like. And you're like, why did I do that? I'm sweating. It's like a quasi sauna. And then come back to your normal, where you're at, and then do 2 or 3 nights, 2 or 3 degrees cooler. I am very, very confident that the majority of us would sleep better a few degrees cooler. The science backs it up. I don't have to be confident. There's study after study that a couple degree drop. Okay, why? Good question. I'm glad you asked why. Our body throughout the entire 24-hour clock is constantly changing its temperature. And if you're functioning well at night, your temperature should drop a little bit. And as you go through your sleep cycles, your temperature should actually increase just a little bit. It's only like 1 or 2 degrees. But if you circumvent that by having your living quarters constantly be 72 degrees, it's hard for your body to let that happen, right? So again, always, I would never stand here and say, I think you guys should try this and not be doing it myself. We are constantly looking at, hey, what's the temperature? When we go to Florida, one of the first things we're gonna look at is say, hey, how do we cool this thing down? Because we don't wanna be on vacation and nobody's asleep. Although sometimes 1-year-old's gonna dictate that no matter what. So the two easiest factors, in my opinion, to manipulate are A, how dark can you make it? I say make it so dark that it's dangerous in your room. And then number 2 is how cool can you make it? And it doesn't, like I said, you don't have to go home and let me drop it by 5. My significant other is like all mad at me. But hey, you drop it by 1 or 2. Most people won't even notice if it's 1 or 2. All right, negligible, didn't, okay, let me drop it another 1. What do you lose? You have nothing to lose if you're like, this John guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, cool, go right back to where you were at that normal temperature. But again, time after time, we have seen that dropping the temperature helps with better sleep. Questions so far? I want to grab some water. Yes, Henry.
Thanks, yeah. So my roommate and I keep through about 58 degrees.
Love
And it works well for us. And we both run pretty hot. And we know that when you warm up is when we wake up. And so in the morning, should we try to like close the windows or try to elevate the room heat just to make sure we have like circadian rhythm when we wake up?
So interesting things that can help with that. So awesome questions. I love that you're doing that. And if you guys are not 58, that's extreme. It's really not that wild. What it usually does is, do you have, I don't want to assume, pretty good heavy blankets? Yeah, it makes you want to use really heavy winter blankets. Like, if I get out of these blankets, it's really cold. So I'm gonna pull these things up and stay underneath the blankets where I'm warming up. So in the morning, ideally, some sun exposure. Another thing, and also this is to increase the speed of your body warming up. If you can do something to drop your core temperature, it will, so short story, if you can go outside, it's colder outside, your body has to warm itself up. If you ever wanted to dabble in delivered cold exposures, you guys have a cold tank at Hamilton or no?
Just for sportsmen.
There's, again, science behind, if you go into, let's think about this, go back to the evening. So we're gonna flip it on its head. In the evening is a great time to do a hot shower or a hot bath. But John, I thought we wanted to cool down a minute. You are heating your external skin. Internally, your body says, hey, I'm getting really warm. I've got to counteract that. The same thing happens when we go into cold places. Our body says, hey, I need to do something to warm up. So in the morning, sun exposure or light exposure, and if you can try to get your external temperature to drop a little bit, it will speed that process up a little bit. Did that answer your question? Awesome. Yes, ma'am.
So, is it more so the light, like we have in our bedroom a giant, like we have a vaulted ceiling and a giant like crescent window that like, we can't cover.
Fair.
So like in June at 5 a.m. it may as well be the middle of the day. And so like I sleep with an eye mask on.
That was you, yep.
But is it the sun hitting your skin that's like making the sleep poor, or is it hitting your eyes?
The eyes would be the worst.
Okay.
The skin would be second to that.
Okay.
But I love that you have the sleep mask. And I love that you're constantly don't stare up into the one-eyed sun right there.
Yeah.
It's everything that we talk about today, and those of you that are doing the challenge. None of this is perfect tomorrow. No, we live in a realistic world of like, okay, hey, you know what? I'm going to work on a sleep mask and trying to find something. Maybe we change the orientation of the bed. Again, I'm just throwing stuff out there.
Yeah.
Maybe if I sleep facing this way, I don't get hit with it much. Or again, the number one thing that I love is you're aware of it and you're willing to be like, hey, I'll wear a sleep mask, I'll do these things. But for something that we have to do every single day of our life until we pass away, I would tell you the compounding return of improved sleep, it is well worth a roll of black electrical tape. It is well worth clicking a couple little buttons and be like, let me see how this works. Holy cow, that is pretty good. And like, because the next morning you wake up and go, wow, actually you got a pretty good night's sleep. I'm a little bit more energetic. My mood is a little bit better. Hey, you know what? I'm not jonesing for Eggo waffles right now. Hey, my blood pressure dropped a little bit. Hey, all of these positive compounding effects that come from a good night's sleep, which we have to do regardless. You have to do it, right? If you have a superpower and you're not gonna sleep, like, opt out of the presentation, but if not, let's rock and roll. All right, so tracking sleep. Anybody here have Whoop bands, any of the different devices? Cool, love them. I think they're great, ... as long as you don't let it get inside of your head. What do I mean by that, right? The last thing I would want was Henry has a great night's sleep. And he wakes up, he slept in 7.5 hours, and he's like, man, I feel really good, I'm excited to go work out, go to class, whatever he's gonna do. And then he looks at his watch and it goes, no way, Henry, you got a sleep score of 13. And then the whole rest of the day, he's, my God, he's artificially like feeling tired because his watch told him that. I'm a big fan of, I use mine, I don't use those. I just use, hey, when I'm ready, number one, did I wake up naturally, right? That's another big one, is over time, you can start to essentially get your body to wake up at a set period of time. If you get sound sleep patterns, you can usually wake up around those set times anyway. So I'll say, hey, did I wake up on my own? Number two, did I dream? This is a fun, interesting one. Many of us, especially when your sleep is dysregulated, don't dream anymore. That's a sign that we're not going through all of the different sleep cycles. So again, case study of one, when John, well, I didn't have the babies, when my beautiful wife had our sons, I didn't dream for a good 3 to 4 to 6 months while the babies are up and it's chaotic. Once we as a family reestablish some better sleep routines, dreams come back, right? The dreams are a good sign that you are going through all the different sleep cycles that you need. So like, holy cow, I haven't dreamed in like 18 years. That might be a good little breather, good little red flag, like, all right, hey, work on the sleep thing. Yes, ma'am.
What if you have the opposite issue that you have like technicolor
Very vivid.
dreams, incredibly vivid, and like missing planes and.
Number one, I would compliment you that you're getting good deep sleep. If they are like so sometimes my wife, depending on like she likes to read before bed, and majority of the time she'll read things that are not like serial killer stuff. And every once in a while she'll like pick up a book and she's like, oh, I had these horrible dreams. So I guess where I'm going with that is
They're not horrible,
they're just super vivid.
incredibly vivid.
How do you feel when you wake up?
Pretty good, and I record them in my journal.
Okay. Yeah, then I wouldn't.
But there is like, it feels like work in the dream.
Okay.
As well. Yeah, it's sort of like you can be kind of worn out by the situations you were.
Yeah, understandable if there's different things going on in the dream, they're
And I guess
emotionally
that's
charged and.
like how I am.
So, I don't even think I have it on a slide. One of the things, I'm not a big proponent of medications when medications aren't needed. I'm a big proponent of different things that you can use that are non-prescriptive. And my wife and I constantly try different non-prescription sleep aids. We've tried a whole bunch of them. One of the ones that we like right now is called, Mellow, MELLO, somewhere around. And it's a magnesium supplement.
Okay.
And you can try some different things. Again, if you're getting good sound sleep, please don't go see a doctor and ask for sleep meds. But there are a whole host of non-prescription different things. There's different teas, and this is what's unique and interesting about health and wellness. Is yes, I can paint with a broad brush and say, if you guys all go home and get 2 hours of sleep for the next week, you're gonna feel like hell. You're not gonna be happy. I could also say, great, if you guys all on average get 7 to 9, you're probably gonna feel a little bit better. But each individual case of like super vivid dreams, haven't dreamt in 10 years, run a little science experiment, right? Data set of 1, study of 1. Hey, if I use, this magnesium supplement, you know what I realized? I'm still dreaming, but they're not I'm still dreaming, they're still super vivid, but I don't feel like I ran a marathon when I woke up, a mental marathon. So try these different, again, I cannot say this enough. Take however many days you have left on this ball of dirt, multiply that out, and be like, all right, if I could have a little bit better return on my sleep over that many hundred or thousands of tens of thousands of days, like that seems like it might be worth trying some different things of, dropping some temperatures, you can try different teas and all kinds of different things. And I'm a huge proponent of try it out, right? As long as it's not anything detrimental, try it. Like, oh, look at that. This little thing, it's 30 servings, it cost me $22. My sleep is way better. I would spend $22 on that. All right, so going back to tracking sleep, the biggest reason why I have individuals track sleep is so that they can then put their finger on why. So when I work with an individual one-on-one, we use a tracking sheet, and I had them do 2 things. They give me the number of hours they slept, so 6, 7, 8, 2, 1, 9. And underneath that, I had them give me a qualitative score of like a letter grade back in grammar school, A through F. So the way I explain that, Today is Tuesday, so Sunday and Monday, well, Saturday and Sunday, I slept well, probably about 7 hours, and I would say probably like a B, right? I wake up, I feel pretty good, I wanna go train, I feel good. Last night was like, yeah, in bed 7 hours, but like probably like a D to an F because our son was up the majority of the night, up and down, crying. Now I can put my finger on that and I can say why. Okay, son is teething, great. He's only has so many teeth. He may be a little tiger shark, but sooner or later they're all gonna be in. So with that being said, what can I do so I can get back to the 7 and a B, the 7 and an A, the 6.5 and an A as quickly as possible because I want to maintain my cognitive function, my physical performance for as long as I can. If I don't track it, I don't know, well, what the heck caused it to be really good or what caused it to be so poor, then I'm just flying blind and I don't know. So I always tell individuals, especially like John, my nutrition is pretty well dialed in, my exercise is really dialed in, but my sleep has been abysmal for 2, 4, 10, 20 years, right? Start to, because then you can start to say, okay, well, what did I do differently? Holy cow, I dropped the temperature by 3 degrees and actually I'm starting to noticing I feel a little bit better. Or, man, I just did this one thing. But if you don't know what that thing is, it's hard to say what's making it work. So I always do hours of sleep and then right underneath it, how did it feel? A being outstanding, F being really, really poor. So that way I can just kind of come back and be like, all right, man, I had an amazing stretch of 5 days of sleep. And then that night was really, really bad. Oh, you know what happened? Henry, have a great day, sir. You know what happened? We were traveling and we stayed up until midnight. Okay, cool. So I can see those impacts. Questions on anything so far? I'm gonna grab some water. Ooh, love it. Yes, sir.
If you're taking a nap, is there a period of time that's like too long or too short or like it's no longer better?
So I would just tell you, once you start passing probably like, I would say 60 minutes, I would tell you you're probably not napping anymore, you're probably sleeping now. The majority of the time, 10 to 30 is usually ideal, or just enough that you can hit a deep sleep cycle, which is usually 20 is like probably the soonest, and then come out of it and actually feel refreshed. If you start to go too long, it's gonna feel like you just got a short bout of sleep, which can almost be detrimental. But the fun thing about it, guys, is like I said, test it out. Like, all right, hey, I'm gonna see if I can do a 25-minute nap on a regular basis. And for some people, they may be like, oh, that's no good. It just makes me want to just be asleep for the rest of the day. For some individuals, they may say, yeah, that's awesome. That's my go-to. I finish this chunk of work and then I set a little timer and I do a 20-25-minute nap and I wake up and I get my second win for the day. So I would tell you, I would draw a hard line at like 60 minutes. Yes, ma'am. Oh, 5 minutes. Five words. I thought we were playing track and sleep. We talked about that. So this is the slide I wanted to get to. Sleep environment. So we talked a lot about the first half of the presentation. It's not a scare tactic. It's just the truth, right? If our sleep is really poor, it impacts heart health. It impacts immune system. It impacts cognitive function. All the things that the majority of us probably want to have improved. This slide was, hey, what are some of the things that we can do to make it better? We've already touched on a bunch of them, but your sleep environment. If there's a place to be frugal, don't be frugal on your mattress. Don't be like, oh, I got this at a garage sale and it's been used for 17 years, but it was $5. Like, yeah, now you're not gonna sleep well. Like, spend the money on a decent mattress, buy good sheets, change them out every 2 to 3 years. You wanna be comfortable. If you think of the math, right? If you're doing 7 to 8 hours, that's almost a third of your life that you're in bed. Spend some money on that. Sleep hygiene. We didn't touch on this. Majority of us as adults, we have a morning routine. Hey, my alarm goes off, I brush my teeth, I hit the bathroom, I put the coffee on, I do these things, right? That's a morning routine. Building an evening routine can be just as important. Hey, it's 8 p.m., the kids are down, here's what we're doing. Setting out the clothes for the next day, brush my teeth, set out the coffee for the next whatever I need to do, because all of these things, they start to be a mental cascade of, okay, hey, it's time to start winding down. Right? If it's the evening routine of kids are down, coffee set for the next day, I'm not gonna be like, you know what, let me tackle this huge work project at 9 o'clock because I'm already starting to cascade into, oh, lights are coming down, staying away from stimulants, like I didn't touch on that one. But diet and nutrition, how about, I'll come over here for a second. Saw this the other day, I do not claim that this is mine, but I liked it a lot. And it was if you can start to, again, does not need to be perfect, roughly 3 hours before getting to sleep, trying to pull back on the liquids, We had mentioned, I think one of the first slides, right, 7 to 9 hours is what we're looking for sleep. We did say uninterrupted. If we are getting up to use the restroom, okay, one time, all right, but we don't want to be, hey, I was in bed for 7 hours, but I got 5 times to use the restroom. One of the fastest ways to do that is to try to front load your water intake earlier in the day. So much like we talked about getting sun exposure earlier in the day, try to get as much water in earlier because then you have more time to excrete it out of your system before it's time to hop into bed. So trying to reduce water intake at least 3 hours before bed. Simple math, if we're going to bed at 9, hey, dinner time's the last time I really want to have lunch. Foods, that's another one, is most individuals, again, I can't say everybody, will generally sleep a little bit better if they have more time for that food to digest, rather than, hey, I had a big, heavy meal, and I just dived into bed, and now I'm trying to digest it. And then the last one we did talk a lot about was electronics. Physical activity, we don't want to do it right, again, same thing. Physical activity is amazing, we do want to do it, but we don't want to be doing it right before bed, right? Your endorphins will be high, your energy levels will be high, so the worst time I would say is you don't want to be, okay, 8 o'clock, time to get my evening workout. At this point, I'll just open it up to questions.
Sorry, thank you.
You're fine, you're okay, no. Ladies, you did amazing, you're the best front row I've had all day.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's round out with any specific questions, anything that you've heard, anything you've done in the past. Yes, ma'am.
I heard or have read that it is actually natural to wake up at like 3 a.m. and that's in history how people
You're correct.
slept.
You would sleep in shifts, and yes, they would get up and they would possibly eat, they would possibly reproduce, they would do all kinds of stuff at 3 a.m. What I would say is, if we're not getting, I would not ideally say get up and do much. So for anybody that's like, hey, I sleep but I wake up at 2 or 3, one of the things to help you get back to sleep relatively quickly within reason is trying to make sure that we don't go and do anything that's overstimulating. But naturally waking up once or twice throughout the night, like I don't hit the pillow at 9 and then wake up at 4:30 without rolling over once or twice or tossing and turning. Again.
And I think the point of those articles or whatever were like, don't freak out.
No,
Because
yeah.
I think people do freak out and then they're awake longer. Because they're like, I only have 2 more hours.
Exactly, they're getting in their own head that they're awake. Everything that I said today, one of the best things you could do is, like I said, do a little sleep audit. Hey, today's Tuesday. From Tuesday night through Thursday, I'm just going to jot down on a sheet of paper. I went to bed at 10 and I woke up at 5:30. I went to bed, whatever. I went to bed at midnight and I woke up at 7. Again, everybody's sleep routine is going to be different. How did I feel? Okay, B, B, F. All right, next week, what can I do to make it a little bit better? There is no perfect. Nobody that I know sleeps 8 hours a night, every single night, without any deviation. It just doesn't happen. The whole purpose of these presentations is to provide, number one, hey, why should that climb the totem pole of importance? Number two, what can we do to make it better over time? And then work on it, right? Implementation is the biggest thing. If you're like, oh, this is great. He talked a lot about why it was important. And he gave some really good, valuable things that we could do. And now I'll do nothing. Like, nothing will change. So maybe pick 1 or 2 things. Like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to mess around with that whole making it cold. But the whole light thing, okay, cool. I'll do the light thing. I'll work on that. Or vice versa. I like my lights in my room. But maybe I'll make it a little colder. Or maybe say, hey, the 3, 2, 1, that seemed pretty interesting to me. Maybe I'm going to try that for 3 days. And you're like, oh, my sleep went from okay to it feels really good. And the next thing you know, you just start to make that your natural routine, your natural habit. I often use the analogy of nobody comes out of the womb brushing their teeth, right? At some point, somebody gives you a little external motivation. They show you how to do it, and they say, John, go brush your teeth. And they say, John, go brush your teeth for probably about a year until John brushes his teeth on his own. So when we do anything new like this, yeah, it probably feels like a little bit of extra work. But over time, if it just becomes your routine and your habit, it just becomes the same thing as brushing your teeth, except it has a huge, massive compounding impact. Like I say, if you start to get a even 5-10% better sleep on a regular basis, you have a whole likelihood of a whole lot of many other things that are start to kind of, that snowball starts to grab other things. Like, oh, my training feels a little bit better. Oh, I feel like my memory, like, there's a fun fact. If you learn something new, so I think what was my Jeopardy thing for you guys? Oh, that Guinness World Record doesn't take submissions for longest days without sleep anymore, right? That's now stored in short-term memory. For that to go to long-term memory, it's ideal for you to get a good night's sleep tonight, right? So the transference of new things learned from short-term to long-term, again, I know where that part of my brain is, but where it goes from short-term memory to long-term memory is directly impacted by the quality of your sleep. So if you are trying to learn something new, if you are trying to study for something, if you have a new certification, anything you're working on, it is extremely beneficial to get a good night's sleep. Questions? I'm going off on tangents, which I often do.
Question, but I have interesting sort of something that you said not to do, but I do. I have 3 grown children, in their 50s. They are very close to me, they always tell me the problems.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a really bad problem. They're gonna get a divorce. And so therefore, I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about it, I get up and I actually dust.
Okay.
I go downstairs, I dust, I have to change the subject because I can't continue, I can't get it out of my head. So if I go and I dust, I do something, think about something like that, I actually can I get tired. I can go to sleep. So sometimes I think you have to interrupt and get up and do something.
Totally understandable. And again, if that works awesome for you, cool, keep doing it. What I wouldn't recommend is somebody just tossing and turning, you know what I'm gonna do? Get up and clean the house. Not you have a clean house, but the next day you're gonna feel like you're gonna fall asleep at the wheel. Yes, ma'am.
So, turning the temperature down with your family,
Yep.
did you find that you had any special considerations for the baby, like waiting until he was a little bit older, or did you just go?
Not really. At that point, he was maybe 6 months. And again, I'm not advocating like drop it to 45 degrees. And do a degree at a time. A couple degrees, right? It's hardly a 1 degree difference in your house is not noticeable. Now, over 7 or 8 days, and you drop it 7 or 8 degrees, that's definitely noticeable. But I would also tell you, you could literally make it as simple as this: sheet of paper. Hey, we've kept the house at 70. We're gonna do that for 2 days, and sleep was okay. All right, great. Let's try 2 days at 68. No noticeable difference. Okay, 66. Oh, I've bundled up in the blanket. I feel like I slept a little bit better. So incremental change with the observation of, is it producing what I want? Yeah, great. But no, we didn't really wait with that. And there's cultures that put babies like outside. Yeah, like I think it's like Scandinavian, like so they literally put the babies like on the porch in like a little they call it a cram, like out there, like, hey, sleep out here, Gertrude, and then sleep like a rock. They sleep like a rock. Now, in our culture and society, CPS would be called in a heartbeat, right? Neighbor's got the kid out on the porch, but yeah, but she's sleeping great. So we could probably find the middle ground of that. Yes?
Can you please share this slide with us?
I would love to. Yep, make it all readily accessible. Anybody that's doing the challenge, this is what it is. It's like, I thoroughly love being able to answer these questions. This is what I've done for 13 years. It makes me excited. Probably a lot of people are like, yes, today I get to go talk about sleep. I am. I'm like excited, but yes, today I'm gonna go talk about sleep. Even though at 2:42 I told Jen, like, gonna have to tell him the truth. I did not sleep well last night. This presentation would have been at least 3% better if I had gotten better sleep. But yes, we will share all the slides. Yep. And for anybody that has any questions, comments, concerns, you want more information, my email is john@mohawkvalley.com. Stephanie can pass along how to get in touch with me. Have a great day, my friends. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys listening. I'll part of it.
Stop recording? Stop recording?
Not bad.
Not bad.
Stop it, stop before you shut down.